latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell by Paul Kane. This is from Solaris Books, and as you can see right there, it is set in Clive Barker's Hellraiser world. I had heard about this some time ago and then forgot about it, so when I saw it on the bookshelf at the bookstore, I flipped out, figuratively speaking. I was very excited, though, to see this. I grabbed it. I finished up what I was reading, so I could just jump straight into this. Very excited about it. So, what you have here in Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell is Sherlock Holmes gets hired to investigate a missing persons case. And he goes and he checks it out. And basically he just tells the people, your brother's dead. Sorry, that's my conclusion. And they're like, get the hell out, Sherlock Holmes, you're rude. And then shortly after that, another missing persons case comes up, and it's very similar to the first one. So he goes and checks that out. And he's not quite so rude to this person. And then another missing persons case. And then his brother, Mycroft, wants him to look into something. And it all ties together. And of course, we, the reader, know where it's going. And that's, I'm not going to tell you too much more specific about it as far as story goes, because, you got to read it for yourself. So, what you have here is a fantastic mashup of two things that I really love. I'm a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes. I've read most of the original stuff. I can't say for sure that I've read all of it because I don't remember if I have. But I've read most of it at least. Watched all the old movies. Basil Rathbone. I loved the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movies. There's Titan Books is putting out a whole new series by some great authors. I have those. Big fan of Sherlock Holmes. And then I'm a huge fan of Clive Barker and Hellraiser. I've read the original novel, Hellbound Heart. I read the Hellbound Hearts anthology, which was edited by Paul Kane. I have not seen all of the movies. I think there's 10 now. I've not seen all of the Hellraiser movies, but I've read a bunch of the Hellraiser comic books. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So seeing the two of these things together, very excited about it. And I think it works. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say, and this is obviously just my opinion, excuse me, if someone who is just a fan of Sherlock Holmes picks this up, they may have a problem with the Hellraiser aspects of it, simply because it absolutely goes into the supernatural. Obviously, it's Hellraiser. It's got Cenobites. And I think, for the most part, at least the original Sherlock Holmes stories, probably most of them, I haven't read. I mean, there's so many authors writing so much Sherlock Holmes, and I have not read nearly all of it. But at least the original stuff, I think, had a Scooby-Doo. If there were any hints of the supernatural, they always Scooby-Dooed it, for lack of a better way to put it. Sherlock would reveal how this alleged supernatural element was done through science or whatever. And this, no, it's Hellraiser. Sherlock Holmes purists may have a problem with that. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but they might dislike the fact that this is so steeped in real supernatural happenings. Fans of Hellraiser, on the other hand, and again, now maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I don't think they're gonna be like, Sherlock Holmes, pff, that's ridiculous. I just want some Hellraiser stuff. Again, maybe I'm completely wrong. I think Hellraiser fans are going to accept the Sherlock Holmes stuff more readily than the Sherlock Holmes fans will necessarily accept the Hellraiser stuff. You know what I'm saying? And again, I could be completely wrong about this. Maybe people will just pick it up and love it for what it is. Um, so it's uh, broken up into three parts essentially. The first part is typical Sherlock Holmes in that it is told by John Watson. And there are tons of references to old Sherlock Holmes stories. Um, Tons and tons. So, again, it's one of those things. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes, you're going to get the references. If you're not necessarily a huge fan, you won't necessarily get the references, but it's not going to. It's not like a speed bump in the story. It still flows nicely. You're not missing out on anything. So the first part, John Watson is telling the story. Then the second part is written in third person, and where Watson has gone off on his own little side mission kind of thing. And part two, we're following Holmes, so it's in third person omniscient, I believe is what they call it. So we're following Holmes as he does his own thing. And then the third part is a mix of the two. And it's basically a chapter of first person Watson, then a chapter of third person Holmes, first person Watson, third person Holmes, back and forth, so that we get the whole story. And what a story it is. For Hellraiser fans, there is so much in here. It's the best way for me to put it, and I hope this doesn't spoil it for anybody, but basically, you have alternate history versions of a ton of characters from Hellraiser, the Hellraiser universe. Just since it's right in the beginning of the book, I will tell you the very first missing persons case is brought to Holmes by Lawrence and Juliet Cotton, because Lawrence's brother Francis has disappeared from a locked attic room, and Lawrence has a daughter named Kirsten. So if you're a Hellraiser fan, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's that, and then these other missing person cases, other characters that come up, all just, like I said, tons, and even some other Clive Barker Easter eggs throughout the story. Again, if you're a Hellraiser or a Clive Barker fan, and you're like me, you're going to love it. You're going to love all of these references. If you're not, they're just going to be characters. You're not going to be stumbling over it going, well, why is this? Who is this supposed to be? What is this? They're just going to be characters that Holmes comes across and Watson come across as they're doing their thing. So, if you're not well versed in Clive Barker or Hellraiser, don't worry about it. And conversely, if you're not well versed in Sherlock Holmes, don't worry about the references to other Sherlock Holmes stuff. But yeah, the first part, everything starts coming together. It's all pretty typical Sherlock Holmes stuff. But then then Watson goes off to France to do his thing, and it gets very much into Hellraiser Clive Barker territory. Then when we get to the second part where it's third person omniscient and we're following Holmes, still very Sherlock Holmes, but since we lose the first person with not Watson narrating, loses a little bit of that Holmesian storytelling, and it seems to get deeper into the Barker verse. And then part three, it's just all hell breaks loose. Just crazy, balls to the wall craziness. It is wild. And again, maybe some of the Sherlock Holmes purists will not appreciate the insanity at the end of this book. But I think at the very least, the Clive Barker Hellraiser fans will really dig it. This does take place in 1895, so it's before World War I, so it is before a certain iconic Hellraiser character. Again, Hellraiser fans are going to... There's no Pinhead, okay? Pinhead's not in it. There, I said it. Because it takes place before Pinhead became Pinhead. But there are tons of Cenobites. It's plentiful with Cenobites, a plethora of Cenobites. Some very bizarre Cenobites in this. I just like saying Cenobites. They're fantastic. And Paul Kane, the author, is, I guess he's considered an expert on Hellraiser. He wrote a book about the movies. If you look in the back where it's got the About the Author thing, right here, let's see. Clive Barker himself said Paul Kane is the world's leading expert on the Hellraiser films and their mythology. Oh, wait. No. Clive Barker said he is the resident Hellraiser expert. Peter Atkins, who wrote Hellraisers 2 through 4, said he's the world's leading expert on Hellraiser films and their mythology. Pardon me for that little mix-up. But anyway, yeah, so Paul Kane, he knows what he's talking about. I don't know what his Sherlock Holmes pedigree is, necessarily, but he does a fine job. It reads like a Holmes story. The character, Watson and Holmes, feel like Watson and Holmes. And the Hellraiser stuff definitely feels like Hellraiser stuff. So, yeah. Loved this, but so excited, and I wasn't disappointed. My rating... I'm pushing the boundaries here. I wanted to draw a puzzle box, because that's a big thing, but that's way too complicated, way beyond my meager talents, and I'm being generous when I say I have talents at all. So I decided to think outside the box, no pun intended, and I went with 5 out of 5 Pinhead magnifying glasses. So you've got the magnifying glass, a staple of Sherlock Holmes, and then I threw the pins in there, and you can maybe see there's a little blood coming out where each pin. But anyway, 5 out of 5 Pinhead magnifying glasses. Really, I didn't know what to do since I couldn't draw a puzzle box. So there you have it. But that's Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell by Paul Kane. I'm so happy that this book exists. It was so much fun. I would love to see more of this kind of thing. There's a lot of really interesting Sherlock Holmes stuff coming out, which excites me. I would love to see more well done Hellraiser or Barkerverse type stuff come out. But you can't go wrong starting with this. Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell. So, I will have links for the book in the description below. I found mine at Barnes & Noble, just sitting on the shelf. Very exciting. But I'll have links for it in the description below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. There's so much stuff I didn't talk about, because really you want to read this and experience it for yourself. But, if there's anything you really want to know, ask me in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning, please, because we don't want to spoil it for people who don't want to know. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I guess that's it. So, Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell by Paul Kane. 5 out of 5 Pinhead magnifying glasses. That's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I have been your host, Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.